Hello, I would like to welcome you to the information session for domestic violence survivors. I'm Samantha Baldwin and I'll be presenting the session today. I want to start by saying that if being seen at this or with this session puts you in danger, I highly encourage you to leave now and reach out to me privately later. I have included my email if you need to reach me. Most importantly, this is only an overview. There's a lot of information and resources out there available for survivors, and this session and Pathfinder are meant to be used as a jumping-off point for your research. If you need additional help outside of these tools, you can also reach out to me or a librarian. So to begin, domestic violence is defined as violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving the violent abuse of a spouse or partner. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. To break this down further, 2 in 5 lesbian women, 1 in 4 gay men, 3 in 5 bisexual women, 1 in 3 bisexual men, 1 in 3 heterosexual women, and 3 in 10 heterosexual men will experience rape, physical violence, and/or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. So domestic violence does not pick genders. It can affect anyone. This session is designed for anyone who needs more information about domestic violence, but especially for survivors who need help finding resources. When conducting basic searches, it's important to know the different terms that are used to define domestic violence, so you have the best chance in finding what you need. Domestic violence is often also called domestic abuse, intimate partner violence, interpersonal partner violence, physical abuse, or in some cases, battered women. Often, the term survivors is also interchangeable with victims as well. If you're searching for something and not having luck, try to play around with some of these terms to see if they help you to vary your results. Moving on to the resources that I've provided, they are organized in a very specific way. Westbrook, author of Understanding Crisis Information Needs and Context, describes 5 stages of domestic abuse information needs: affirming abuse, first police contact, first shelter stay or contact, preparing to separate on a long-term basis, and post-shelter or post-move living. Each of these stages comes with a specific set of information needs, so it's important to focus on the resources provided for the stage you identify with. When people are in the stage of affirming abuse, their most important needs are safety and understanding the abuse cycle. The first resource I have provided is a book written by Linda G. Mills called Violent Partners, A Breakthrough Plan for Ending the Cycle of Abuse. It addresses the cycle of abuse as well as many of the biggest emotional issues facing people in abusive relationships, such as shame and guilt. This book is available at many libraries, and if you cannot locate it, you can always ask to speak to a librarian about requesting it through interlibrary loan. I have also provided a link to a website that outlines internet safety precautions for those currently in domestic violence situations. It's unfortunate, but reaching out for help, especially through the internet, can be dangerous for survivors. It's important to take the necessary precautions. If you think you're being monitored, you probably are. Don't change your behaviors, because this will often alert your abuser to the fact that you're seeking help. Email, instant messaging, text are not confidential ways of seeking help. Public internet or computers may be safer, and are harder to track by your abuser. During the stage of first police contact, survivors need information and resources about civil and criminal law. Here, I have provided a resource for each. The first is a special collection database through VAWnet that helps survivors navigate the civil legal system. The collection can be navigated through links on the left side of the page and includes information on protective orders, divorce, custody, visitation, child support, representation options, advocacy options, resources for immigrant survivors, and safety planning in court. I have also provided a link to a webpage that organizes domestic violence law websites by state, so survivors can easily learn what the state's laws are for their respective state. The first shelter contact or stay is one of the biggest changes in a survivor's life, but often one of the most helpful. Finding a shelter can seem daunting to survivors, especially because shelters rarely advertise themselves or risk putting their members in danger. DomesticShelter.org provides an easy-to-navigate website where survivors can search for a nearby shelter by inputting their zip code. I have included a screenshot of the website to illustrate some of its features, including a Leave Site button, which is key in internet safety measures if you are worried that an abuser may see what you are doing. The website also includes many helpful articles that can be used at any stage that a survivor might find themselves. I have also included a link to a web page created by DayOneSources.org that outlines what survivors can expect while staying in a shelter, as it is considerably different from living on your own. The page discusses the safety the shelter gives, as well as the services that it provides at no cost. It also discusses some of the rules that you may encounter at the shelter. Preparing to separate or leave on a long-term basis can be one of the most stressful aspects of recovery that survivors face. They are often faced with frustration, information overload, and fear. They often need help navigating the social and legal systems, finding employment, rebuilding relationships with friends and family, and growing their own self-efficacy. I have provided 2 book recommendations for this stage. The first is Meg Kennedy Dugan and Roger R. Hawk, It's My Life Now, Starting Over After an Abusive Relationship or Domestic Violence. This book offers not only reading material to help survivors, but worksheets that you can complete to help you through the emotional and safety issues that you may face. The second is Hillary Abrams' book, Rebuilding Lives After Domestic Violence, Understanding Long-Term Outcomes. The book discusses social issues, housing, employment, and many other issues that commonly affect survivors after they separate from an abusive partner. The final stage, post-shelter or post-move living, is mainly one of self-efficacy, but there are many resources that can still help. The first that I provided is a journal article written called Life Constraints and Psychological Well-Being of Domestic Violence Shelter Graduates. This article specifically looked at the lives of 81 survivors after they left the shelter to live on their own. It discusses the issues they faced and how it affected them psychologically. The results may seem disheartening, but it is important to understand the experience of previous survivors in order to better understand your own. I have also provided a link to a publication by the Housing Committee that describes transitional housing services for survivors of domestic abuse. Transitional housing is similar to traditional housing, but at lower cost in an attempt to help survivors build their self-sufficiency. The publication includes further explanations of traditional housing, as well as explanations of leasing, rent payments, the services provided, funding, evaluations, and examples. As I stated at the beginning of the session, these links are just a jumping-off point. Some of the information may seem basic, but once you have the basics, you can search deeper into what resources you need. I also recommend exploring your non-formal information options. This includes other survivors, friends, and family. Since some of the most common issues that survivors face are emotional, these connections may serve you the best. Also remember that you can reach out to police, counselors, emergency room staff, or 911 if you feel that you're in immediate danger. I wanted to thank you for joining us today and remind you that you are always welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns about anything that I presented today.